Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn, and we don't have a lot of repeat guests, but we've had a guy that's just been one of our most requested guests that people always enjoy. Say, man, I always have a smile on my face when I listen to this guy. And Tommy Lanham is going to be with us. He's no stranger to Hope is Here listeners. Used to be a pastor in church here in Central Kentucky, but he's been up in the big city of New York the last few years. And he's going to be in Lexington, though, in September with a conference that I'm going to be a part of, and we're going to be talking more about that. But Tommy, man, thanks for being with us today. Always love when you're on. My word is hope, and your word is enthusiasm. And in this world we're living in, man, we sometimes have to manufacture enthusiasm, don't we?
That is very true, Greg. I appreciate you having me on the show. I enjoy it every time I'm on here. I love your audience and I love what you're doing. And so I appreciate any time I get a chance to be on here. But you are right. In the world that we're living in, especially in the past few months or weeks, we really need both hope and enthusiasm.
Well, that's one of those things that we have to, like I said, be intentional. I remember when I was a college basketball coach at Western Kentucky University. That was one of the things that our head coach told us as coaching staff, that we had to bring a lot of enthusiasm each day. And I really didn't appreciate it as a young guy, but as I've gotten older now, I definitely do appreciate that. But today we're going to talk about part of your word, enthusiasm. You've got a great acronym for that, and one of the letters for that, the letter E, you just kind of start out of the gate with, I think, just a tremendous topic of embracing your weird. And when I first saw that, when I was preparing, we interviewed you a few years ago about this, I thought, man, this ought to be interesting. But as you talked about it, I just thought, well, I guess we're all a little weird. So what does that mean, though, to our listeners that maybe aren't familiar with your term, embracing your weird?
Well, embrace your weird is the first of the 8 decisions that I believe people need to make in order to break out of the monotony of the mundane and the mediocre so they can break through to their enthusiasm zone. And embracing your weird simply means embracing the way God has made you. God has made each and every one of us unique. I forget who it was that said it. I think it might have been Gary Chapman or somebody that said, if two people are just alike, one of you's a waste. Which means, we're all different. We may have some similarities, but we're all different. We're not going to be just like our parents. We're not going to be just like our siblings. We're not going to be just like our coworkers or our classmates or even our friends. We are different. And the conflict becomes when we try to be like somebody else rather than just embracing who we are. So when I talk about embracing your weird, I am talking about simply embracing what is different and unique about you, because that's exactly how God made you.
Well, I've talked about this before, but I just think, it's one of those things that it's just so easy to fall in this trap, and the enemy's so good at it. But sometimes instead of embracing our weird, our uniqueness, as you just talked about, we want to compare our weird to somebody else's, don't we?
We do. Oftentimes we compare ourselves to each other. I love the passage of scripture in Galatians chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. It's from the Message translation. I love the way it words it. It says, make a careful exploration of who you are and the work you have been given, and then sink yourself into that. But then the very next line says, don't be impressed with yourself and don't compare yourself with others. It's not about comparing yourself with others. It's about embracing who you are. When we compare ourselves with others, one of two things happens. We either become prideful or we become depressed. If we compare ourselves to others and we think we're better than them, then we become prideful. If we compare ourselves to others and we think they're better than us, then we get depressed. And I think what God's word tells us is don't compare. We can learn from others, but don't compare yourself to others, because God made you unique and only you could be you. If you try to be somebody else, you're going to be second at best, but you could be number one at being you.
Well, that's such a great point. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and I've got a middle brother and sister that are twins, and he's an oncologist, just super smart. I mean, just brilliantly gifted with an amazing mind. And then my youngest brother is a great athlete and been a college basketball coach on the Division I level, as either a head coach or assistant coach for over 20 years. And sometimes I would compare, what I did or how much money I made or the way they did things versus mine. And man, I always just felt like I came up short, and it wasn't just because they're both taller than me, but it was just because that was the measuring stick that I used. But when I finally just accepted how God had wired me up, my uniqueness or weirdness, to use your term, I wasn't weird compared to them, even though I would do that. But man, when I accepted how God had made me up, there's just a lot of peace that came in my life. Have you found that with that in your life and with other people as you worked with them through the years? Since not only are you a pastor and an author, you also do a lot of life coaching.
Right. Yeah, it creates inner conflict when we compare ourselves to others, or we try to be like others, or we try to, not that we don't grow, we grow and we become more of who God created us to be, but we're not trying to change to be like somebody else, because that causes inner conflict. And when we learn to simply embrace our weird, embrace the way God made us, it creates a sense of peace inside of us. And things just tend to work out a little better when we do that.
Well, what are some of the best ways just to embrace your weird that you have found, Tommy?
Well, one of the best ways, I think, is to understand your personality style and other people's personality styles and how they can work together. God created us all different with different personalities. You could go into a lot of other things, spiritual gifts, our abilities, our passions and stuff as well. Um, but I really think that it's so important to get an understanding, grasp the concept of what your personality style is and what other people's personality style may be, and how you can work that together.
Well, one of the things that we all do have different personalities, but talk about what some of the different personality styles are, Tommy.
Well, that's an excellent question, Greg. For thousands of years, as people have studied this, the predominant school of thought on this is that we have four dominant personality styles. Now, obviously, the human psyche is much more complex than four personality styles, but it does help us to group people and ourselves into a certain aspect, a certain concept, so that we can better understand ourselves. Now, you're not going to be, if you share a personality style with somebody, you're not going to be just like them, but you will have similarities with them. And you'll find a lot of different terminologies for this. I bring my terminology straight out of the Bible, where Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And his response was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. Those four areas make up the whole person. But each one of those is one a little more dominant than the others. So you have your heart personality styles, and they are the security seeking personality. They're the ones, they want to know that there's enough money in the bank, their marriages are secure, their kids are safe, everything is just secure. They like that sense of knowing that things are in control. The second personality style is what I call the bodies, and they are the adventure seeking personality. They like to have fun, they live for the moment. They love to do new experiences. They like that adrenaline rush. They like to go out and seek that adventure. The third personality style is what I call the souls, and they are the identity seeking personality. They're the ones always trying to figure out who they are. And if they ever figure out who they are, they cease being who they are, because who they are is trying to find out who they are. It's just this lifelong journey that they go through of getting a deeper understanding of who they are and their purpose for being here on life, being here on earth. And the fourth is what I call the minds, and they are the knowledge seeking personalities. And they're the ones that when they are little kids and they get presents for Christmas, instead of playing with it, they take it apart to try to figure out how it works. They love to figure out how things work, and they carry that on into adulthood as well.
Well, I'm sure some of our listeners, as they've heard you describe those different personality styles, okay, they're saying, well, Tommy, help me out. How can I discover my own personality style?
Well, that's a great question, Greg. There's a number of surveys and tests that you could do online. They will use different terminologies. Some use colors, some use numbers. Mark Moore out in California uses just dogs. He's got, I think, a Saint Bernard and a Rottweiler and a Labrador and a puppy, to describe these four personality styles. Again, I use hearts, bodies, souls, and minds. You can find a lot of free surveys out there to discover this. I have a booklet on my website at theenthusiasmzone.com where you could take a personality style test on that if you get it. If anybody's interested, they could get in touch with me. I will send them a free digital copy. If you're listening to this broadcast and you're interested in that and you don't want to buy the booklet, I understand that. It's not that expensive. I think it's like $7 on my website. But if you just want it digitally and you can print it out yourself, I will send it to you for free.
Well, hey, I can't beat that deal, free, and I think it's one of those things that when people understand how God has wired them, who their personality is, a lot of freedom comes in that, doesn't it, Tommy?
Yeah, it is. It gives you a ton of freedom because you begin to realize that, just because I'm not just like my sibling or my parents or my friends, doesn't mean something's wrong with me. It just means that you're different. And when you understand how you're different, how you communicate different, you think differently, you see the world differently, then you can, like we talk about, embrace that. And it makes all the difference in the world. And when you embrace not only that in yourself, but embrace it in others and understand that they're different too, because our natural tendency is to expect everybody else to be just like us. And nobody else is just like us, nor do we need them to be. God created us different because that's how the world works. I get so excited about this stuff, I can't get my words in order. That is the way the world works best, is when each of us embraces our weird and the weird in others.
Well, I know for somebody listening today, they needed to hear this. And, man, there's going to be a great opportunity coming up. Tommy's going to be here in person in Lexington, Kentucky on the weekend of September 6th. And tomorrow we're going to be sharing about this just incredible opportunity he's got. It's called the Enthusiasm Experience 2024. And he is going to help you find your enthusiasm zone. He's going to help you be able to embrace your weird or your uniqueness. And Tommy, we're going to be talking in more detail about that tomorrow. But for our listeners that are thinking, you know what, man, he's kind of got my attention, what's the best way for them to register for this conference?
You could go to theenthusiasmzone.com. Let me say that again, theenthusiasmzone.com. It's right there at the top of the page. It says Enthusiasm Experience. You could click on there, read more about it, and you can also register for the event.
All right. And then one of the things I'm excited about is know that you're going to give you're offering a special rate for our Hope is Here listeners. Is that right?
Absolutely. This retreat is $497. But for those of you that are friends of Greg Horn at Hope is Here, I am offering the friends benefit of $97. I mean, that's $400 off. But we love Greg and we love Hope is Here and we love the audience for Hope is Here. And we are wanting you to get the benefit of this. So it is $97 and the code for getting on there is Hope is Here. If you just type in Hope is Here when you register, you will get the $97 price for that.
All right. Well, I'm going to be honored to be a part of that on that Saturday, so I hope you will go to theenthusiasmzone.com for more information and register and take advantage of that. If you're driving, you can go to our website, hopeisheretoday.org, and listen to the podcast and get all that information. But the good news is Tommy's going to be back with us again tomorrow as we continue talking about how to get in your enthusiasm zone on Hope is Here.